questions I get asked by members and subscribers is, what is the difference between Canon and Nikon? Like, is there a significant difference? Because sometimes they want to buy a camera and they haven't invested in either Canon or Nikon, and they're thinking, okay, well, is there a real difference? And the short answer is, there's actually more difference between the levels of camera than there are between the two brands. But you can really compare them by the price range. So what it is Canon and Nikon, they have cameras that are similarly priced and they have similar features. And you find that cameras that are in a similar price range are actually more similar to each other than if you choose cameras between different prices. So you find that unlike the top of the range with the Nikons, where you've got the D4 and then you have an equivalent Canon camera, which is the 1DX. Now those are both really good sports cameras. The Nikon shoots around about 10-11 frames a second, and the Canon equivalent is about 12, apparently a little faster, it can even get up to 15. So now those two cameras are going to be much more similar to each other than, say, the D50-100 versus the D4. So really, the technologies in both brands are amazing, and it really comes down to personal preferences, the ergonomics, which camera do you prefer. Now, to be honest, I have both these cameras, and I've used Nikon and Canon in the past, but I've invested a lot more in Canon lenses now. So I have a lot of L series lenses, which is the professional series lenses. So I tend to stick to Canon with my main cameras. So I have this 60D, and I have an old 5D and the new 5D Mark III. And so with that investment in lenses, I tend to stick to Canon bodies too, but I do have Nikon as well. Like, just comparing these two particular models, where I'm looking at the D50-100 versus the 60D, I do find that I'm able to get to the settings I want quicker on this camera. So both these cameras have the flip out screen, so as far as, being able to take shots where you're like over the crowd, or really super low shots, they're both great for that. The Canon has that, this particular Nikon has that. A lot of the higher end ones don't have these rotating LCDs. So that's why I say these cameras are pretty much on a par, the 60D and the D50-100, which is now up to the D50-300. But as far as just getting to the menus, I seem to like the way Canon lays out the menu systems better, and I'm really able to get to where I need to be quicker. So I just find it just a little bit more intuitive. So in the past I've used Nikon as well, like with film cameras, and because they were very simple, there wasn't really much in the way of buttons and settings. But as far as the digital side of things go, I just find that just the layout of the Canon menus, I'm just able to find things much better. And one thing I really like too is the Canons tend to have these quick scroll buttons here, like especially on the high-end ones, that you find it becomes really useful. Like, for instance, the original 5D and the new ones have it as well. And what that's useful for is going through settings, but also it's especially useful when you want to really scroll through images really quickly. So if you want to preview your shots, you literally scroll here, and you almost have like a time-lapse animation. It's so quick. And actually recently, a really well-known photographer, Scott Kelby, who was a Nikon user for many years. He used to use Canon as well originally, but he's an NFL sports shooter as well as a portrait shooter. And around about 6 months ago, at the time of making this video, he tried out a Canon 1DX, which has that amazing frame rate for shooting, and tried it out on some sport events, and he actually just fell in love with the fact that the responsiveness, the autofocus system, and that ability to preview really quick was really useful for his job, where you had to quickly preview shots, pick an image and upload it. So he actually made the switch, and he went from Nikon to Canon. Doesn't mean he won't use his Nikon for some things, but for his particular sports shooting, he's found that he's moved over to the high-end Canons now. So really there's, feature for feature, you just need to look at for a particular price range, what are the features that are important to you? Is it the frame rate? You know, is it how fast they shoot? So Nikon has been quite famous for their sensor quality as far as in low noise, they have really clean images. But Canon has caught up a long ways there as well. Like the Canon 5D Mark III is superb in low light. So once again, it's the differences are quite fine between the two brands, and it's really a case of price point and features that you're interested. So pick a price point that you can afford and look at, you know, what features are on the equivalent cameras on both sides there, and that'll be more of a determination of which brand you would prefer. And certainly if you've already invested in a lot of expensive lenses, because some of these professional level lenses are really expensive, you may rather stick with that particular brand. So like in my case, if I'm getting new bodies for my system, I'm going to pick Canon just because I've invested such a lot of money in the good glass. So essentially not a big difference, and really the big jump is between point and shoot and DSLR cameras. And then from the bottom end of the range of DSLR cameras to the top end of range, there's much more range in ability and shooting features from the bottom to the top than there is between brands. So not a real short answer, but that really sums it up. You know, it's really a case of what features you're looking for, and both professionals use both brands, and you'll find amazing photography taken with either brand. And of course there's other brands of camera out there, like the Sonys are really good, and there's some pros that will use the Sony cameras. So it's really a case of finding what camera suits your style, what features you want, and trying it out. You know, try out the different cameras and say, okay, this one I seem to be able to find what I'm looking for better, so you know that might be your preference. Okay, well that's it in a nutshell. The difference between Canon and Nikon are really quite minor in the whole scheme of things. Well, thanks for listening.